This is a compilation video of 3 days current affairs. Let's start with the theme analysis. सबसे पहला टॉपिक है इकोनॉमी यूनियन बजट 2026 की हाइलाइट्स. इसमें फिजिकल पॉलिसी शिफ्ट की बात की गई है वेयर इंडिया इज़ ट्रांजिशनिंग टूवर्ड्स द डेब्ट टू जीडीपी फिजिकल रूल. अब ये रूल क्या होता है ये आपको इस पर नोट्स बनाना चाहिए बिकॉज दिस इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू यूपीएससी. You need to understand in depth about this rule. So this is about prioritizing the long-term sustainability over a rigid fiscal deficit target. Biopharma Shakti, a new scheme जिसका aim है strengthening the pharmaceutical supply chain and research and development infrastructure to reduce import dependency. Infrastructure के केस में अगर बात की जाए तो there is a focus on new high-speed rail corridors to enhance the regional connectivity and economic mobility, governance and polity. Federalism, recent debates center on the governor's role in state legislation and the upcoming delimitation exercise which has implications for parliamentary representation. And what is the role of judiciary over here? That understanding the constitutional procedures for the judicial removal and the functional role of the Arbitration Council of India in improving the ease of doing business. And social legislation जो कि आपका गवर्नेंस एंड पॉलिटी में ही आ जाता है. द ऑनगोइंग डिबेट रिगार्डिंग द एज ऑफ कंसेंट अंडर द पॉक्सो एक्ट and the intersection with the personal liberties. So this is about this. International relations and science and technology. This is about the strategic alliance between India, UAE, strategic partnership across the energy and trade sectors. Technology diplomacy, the Pax Silica initiative focusing on India's role in global semiconductor supply chain and the challenges of emerging US tariff. न्यूक्लियर रिफॉर्म्स में आपका शांति बिल जो है प्रपोज किया गया. आई एम कवरिंग इट इन शॉर्ट बिकॉज ये ऑलरेडी चीज़ें डिस्कस हो चुकी हैं. एम्ड एट स्ट्रीमलाइनिंग द न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी रेगुलेशंस इन प्राइवेट सेक्टर पार्टिसिपेशन. इन्वायरमेंट के कंटेक्स्ट में अगर बात की जाए तो कंजर्वेशन एफर्ट्स सराउंडिंग द अरावली कंजर्वेशन टू कॉम्बैट द डेजर्टिफिकेशन एंड अर्बन एनक्रोचमेंट. इस पर भी पहले बात हो चुकी है. दिस इज़ अ न्यू टर्म. दिस इज़ अबाउट ग्रीन टेक. This is about evaluating the carbon footprint of AI and its impact on India's net zero targets. India-US relations and the trade diplomacy. Bilateral agreements involving India and or affecting India's interests. ये syllabus relevance है with respect to UPSC. The interim trade agreement framework की अगर हम बात करें तो India and US have unveiled a framework for an interim trade deal aimed at preferential market access. की highlights की अगर बात की जाए about this trade deal तो tariff reduction जो कि 18% हो गया है, डाउन हो गया है. India will reduce or remove tariff on US agricultural and industrial goods like the pecans, blueberries, cranberries, etc. US will reduce tariff on Indian imports to 18%. जो कि 50% पेनल्टी के रेट पे था. इकोनॉमिक इम्पैक्ट क्या पड़ेगा? इंडिया इंटेंड्स टू परचेज अराउंड $500 billion इन US प्रोडक्ट्स, एनर्जी, एयरक्राफ्ट, प्रेशियस मेटल्स ओवर 5 years. Strategic trust. PM Modi highlights the trade deal as a reflection of trust and dynamism, while opposition, that is the Congress, it has critiqued as surrendering to US interest. नेक्स्ट आपका इसी का पार्ट है. दिस इज़ अबाउट द ऑयल फॉर टैरिफ्स जियोपॉलिटिक्स. ये जियोपॉलिटिकल कंटेक्स्ट में इंपॉर्टेंट है. द प्रेसिडेंट ट्रम्प rescinded the 25% punitive tariff on India which was imposed in August 2025 contingent on India stopping Russian oil imports. Now if we talk about the strategic autonomy versus the pressure, the US claims India committed to stopping Russian oil and shifting to US energy. However, the former Indian diplomats have termed this as plain bullying. Energy security. This highlights India's challenge in balancing strategic autonomy while managing pressure from transactional US administration. Next is about the India-EU partnership. Effect of policy of developed countries on India's interest. Shift from trade to strategy. India-EU trade deal is no longer just about the tariffs on wine and cars. It is a strategic realignment against a volatile international order, notably the influence of China and Russia. Key cooperation pillars: technology, defense and security, green energy. Now these are the key cooperation areas. Conclusively अगर बात की जाए तो डील जो है this basically seeks to move beyond issue based coalitions to a more institutionalized participation and partnership. Global climate governance, hop on, hop off. Environmental pollution and degradation, international environmental conventions. ये आपका सिलेबस रिलेवेंस है यूपीएससी के हिसाब से. प्रॉब्लम क्या है? आर्टिकल जो है कंपेयर करता है ग्लोबल क्लाइमेट गवर्नेंस को टू अ बस with no obligations to reach a destinations. National interest consistently overrides the global urgency. COP30 critic. While COP30 produces more frameworks and processes, it failed on climate finance. Actual needs for mitigation or adaptation that exceed around $2.4 to $3 trillion per year, while the current flows are under $400 billion. What are the key failures? Ambition gap, technology transfer, loss and damage. The world is projected to cross around 1.5 degrees Celsius in the early 2030s. Remains a talking point with the little operationalization. The fund remains undercapitalized relative to the needs of the most vulnerable nations. Next up, international security, nuclear arms control. Collapse of New START. The US has allowed New START treaty to around 2 lapse, citing fundamental flaws and lack of transparency in China's growing nuclear arsenal. The three-way proposal. The US is pushing for a trilateral trade deal, including Russia and China. China's stance क्या है? China rejects joining, arguing its arsenal is significantly smaller than those of US or Russia. So basically ये signal करता है एक era of unconstrained nuclear competition, increasing global instability and putting pressure on non-proliferation regimes. Science and tech, fungal metabolism and therapies. Recent developments in science and tech and health. इसके ऊपर ये researchers at CCMB Hyderabad have found that fungal shape shifting from yeast to filamentous form is driven by internal metabolism processes जिसमें glycolysis important है, not just the genetics. Now clinical significance, fungi are harder to eliminate once they transform into filamentous form to invade the tissues. By targeting the metabolism, the Achilles heel rather than just gene network, scientists can develop more effective antifungal therapies. So this is with respect to public health concerns. Here I am analysis. Thank you and have a nice day. This was the last topic of the day. I request you to like, subscribe and share my channel.